A patient came to the Royal Bournemouth Hospital to have an operation on his ankle. Whilst he was in pre-assessment, we asked him how many staff he thought might be involved in his care whilst he was in hospital.
Well, based on past operations, I think it's got to be at least 8, because you've got 2 nurses, you've got the anaesthesia, and you've got the surgeons. So there's quite a lot of people. I think that's I don't really count, so basically I should think there's about at least 8.
Before he was even admitted to hospital, he received a letter from one of our medical secretaries booking his appointment for a pre-assessment, and prior to this, he would have been seen by the team in orthopaedic outpatients. Once his appointment had been made, a set of medical notes were created for his patient journey in the hospital, from pre-assessment right through to discharge. The notes were then available for the patient for his arrival for his surgical pre-assessment appointment. On arrival, he was given a form to fill in with his personal details and medical history. During his pre-assessment, he was attended by 3 members of staff who took his observations and went through his medical history to ensure that all the information was correct. In preparation for his surgery, the patient also had a blood sample taken, and this was then tested by our pathology team. We carry out over 4 million pathology tests every year, testing bloods and tissue samples which provide vital diagnostic information. After his pre-assessment, he was sent to have his ankle x-rayed by 2 radiographers. This was just one of over 440,000 scans we carry out at University Hospitals Dorset every year. The results of this x-ray were sent to our medical records department to be checked, scanned and added to his folder by 5 members of staff. This department sorts out the records of thousands of inpatients we see every year. In the run-up to an operation, a lot of work goes on behind the scenes to get everything ready for this and the thousands of operations that take place annually. Our estates team of more than 100 staff ensure our operating theatres have electricity, lighting, plumbing and clean air filters. They maintain all of the hospital grounds and buildings at the Royal Bournemouth Hospital, Poole Hospital and Christchurch Hospital. Over at Alderney, in our sterile services department, the team ensured all the equipment needed for the operation was cleaned and sterilised before being brought over to the hospital theatres by one of our delivery van drivers in a sealed, sterile packet. The team of 30 clean around 250 to 300 trays every day, or 70,000 trays a year. Our procurement team of around 100 people ensure all the correct technical equipment and medical supplies, including this patient's ankle prosthesis, have been ordered and were in place ready to be delivered by our goods in team. All deliveries, including the linen needed for our staff in theatres, are processed through our goods in departments. The fishbowl at the Royal Bournemouth Hospital is the nerd centre of our theatres. A team of 5 staff are pivotal in organising the rotas of those who work there. Once everything was in place and ready, the patient arrived at the Royal Bournemouth Hospital for his operation, parking in one of our public car parks. These are overseen by car park attendants. On arrival at the Sanborn Admission Suite, he was met by 2 of our admission clerks. On arrival at the Sanborn Admission Suite, he was met by 2 of our admissions clerks, who welcome thousands of patients every year for their procedures. He was then seen by the sister to run through some pre-op checks, including his blood pressure and also preparing him for theatres. His observations were entered into a handheld mobile device. We have a team of 62 people working in IT projects, training, development and application support who keep our applications up to date. As this patient's procedure is relatively new, he was also seen by one of our research trial assistants. He will be followed up over the next 10 years so we can learn from the procedure to help patients in the future. We have over 5,000 patients currently taking part in clinical trials. The patient then met the 3 surgeons who will be performing his operation, and then his consultant anaesthetist. In theatres, the team includes a scrub nurse, healthcare assistant and an operating department practitioner who run through a checklist to ensure all the equipment which might be required is in place for the procedure. The consultant orthopaedic surgeon checked the x-rays and demonstrated with a model how the new ankle will be fitted. The patient was then taken to the operating theatre, where he was put to sleep by a consultant anaesthetist. After the successful operation, he was taken to our recovery unit, where he was cared for by a recovery staff nurse, healthcare assistant, recovery practitioner and deputy clinical leader, who oversee the smooth flow of patients in and out of the unit. When ready, the patient was taken to Ward 7 by one of our porters. We have over 90 porters in our hospitals who move patients around our hospital sites. After being welcomed by the ward clerk and following further checks on the ward, a ward hostess provides hot drinks and snacks to the patient. Every morning, delivery vans arrive at our hospitals with food supplies for patients, visitors and staff. The sandwiches are made on site by a team of 7 who form part of a wider team of 100 catering staff across University Hospitals Dorset. Over the course of a year, 1.1 million meals are made for patients using locally sourced organic food where possible, which is freshly prepared on site. In order to plate up dinner for over 1,000 patients, the team use a conveyor belt system, with each patient able to choose what they want from an online system or a paper menu every day. His meal was then delivered to the ward by one of our catering delivery drivers, using trolleys that keep both hot and cold food at the correct temperature. The next morning, the patient was seen by new teams, including occupational and physiotherapists, to help start him to get up and moving. A foundation doctor came to check on his progress on the ward, while a HCA helped change the sheets and wash him. A member of our housekeeping staff cleaned his room, and a pharmacist came in to give him his medication, one of over 500,000 medicines we dispense every year. He was then seen by one of the discharge team to check he was ready to go home. The patient thought that 8 people would be involved with his operation that day, when in fact there were over 350.
The care I received today was really exceptional. It always is when I come into the hospital. I mean, like I say, I'm a seasoned pro, so yeah, I believe they look after me really well. That's lovely. Yeah.
It's an exciting time for our NHS in Dorset. Poole Hospital will have brand new theatres in a few years' time, which are part of the £250 million transformation and development plans for our hospital sites. You can see a fly-through of these theatres on our UHD website. Thank you to all of the many teams involved in this patient's care, and all the other teams who keep our hospitals running every day, supporting our local population of 750,000 people.